Hey everyone, welcome to another session of our video podcast here at High Level called the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we bring in top players in the world of marketing and also business and learn more about what they do. Before we get started, I've got Rupert Samuel here and I've got a ton of notes on him, and I just want to share his story real quick. He's the CEO of Level Up Marketplace and Wallet Campaigns. He was a speaker at Conversations 2020, which is a mini chat conference, and he's a ManyChat Snapshot Builder winner, which is one of the prestigious things that they do. He's been using HighLevel for almost 4 years and helped manage and update over 1,000 sub accounts for marketers. He was at one of our sponsored exhibitors at the 2023 High Level Level Up Conference in Dallas, one of four high level developer partners in the world. And he's a leader with most apps on the GHL app marketplace with over like 50 plus. But Rupert, where are you based out of? What's your story? How did you hear about High Level? How did you get started? I'm so excited for this podcast.
So thanks for having me. It's a great honor to be here. But yeah, I'm coming from the United Kingdom. I'm based in Bath, maybe about 2 hours west of where London is. I always get asked, like, where is that? It's a city named Bath. Um, but no, I got started with GHL maybe like 4 years ago. I can't remember where I first heard it from. I think I heard it from a friend of mine called Ryan. And first started off with it. I absolutely loved where it was going. I loved the direction, and I loved the enthusiasm around the community. To be honest with you, and some of my clients were moving over to it because we develop applications on top of a lot of other software usually, and we were getting a lot of requests to work with it. So since then, for about 4 years now, sorry, it's just been non-stop high level, really.
I love it. So, this podcast, this session, what we're going to do is teach you and show you and help you understand how you can double your revenue with the high level app marketplace. There's a developer marketplace where you can build out your own integrations and things like that. And we're going to kind of dig a little bit more deeper into it and kind of show you some revenue opportunities. But Rupert, help us understand your beginning stages in software. Like, were you a developer? Like, what's your background? Did you have your own agency? Like, help us understand your journey into high level.
Oh, depending where I want to start with that, we could go back quite a while to talk about a question like this.
Sure.
Um, I mean, in short, I got involved with, I made some snapshots of things like ManyChat going back a while ago, and found I had a knack for doing the automation side of things. I'd already came out of a very successful business in the fashion industry around retail, having stores. So I then wanted to take it over to technology, and I started doing really well with things like Shopify, and I wanted to build apps for things like Shopify. So we started building apps there. We started doing things for ManyChat, and then ultimately, I'm looking at marketplaces and areas where there's a lot of new traction going. And I always knew GHL was going to come out with an app store. I had a word with Sean 3 or 4 years ago, showing him like how we did apps for things like ManyChat, and how we would love to do the same thing for GHL. So it was kind of a combination of getting out of one business, going into another, and taking the same practices and applying it to a different type of product, being technology ultimately.
I love it. So, when it comes to building a revenue line with apps in general, help us understand how to get started. And that'll be the first pillar that we can discuss. How do we get started with apps and the marketplace? Like, what does that mean? How does it work? Help us understand.
Well, you're a GHL agency owner, right? And ultimately, you're using GHL, and you're always looking for new ways to generate more revenue. Now, GHL gives you capabilities like selling Yext, which is an additional application that comes on top of GHL. It's a core product that comes from GHL, and now you're going to be able to sell additional applications directly to your GHL accounts. Now, like usually your GHL accounts, not usually, but sometimes, or usually, depending on who you're working with, potentially your experience with your clients. I'm sure a lot of people might have some ideas about that. But you might need to integrate outwards, and you start talking about words like webhook and API. Okay, Now there is a no code, easy solution where ultimately in one type of conversation, you could convert the workflow builder from GHL into its own Zapier or its own make kind of. And you as the agency, you've got the option to be able to sell those applications to the client, generating a revenue off of the application that was built by somebody like myself. So I would say this app's worth $5 a month, and the agency is going to be able to put it out there for 20. The clients, on those SaaS accounts, they're just going to be able to purchase those apps easy peasy. And if you think of things like Shopify or WordPress, they have a massive, massive, massive app store that's been built up over years and years of all sorts of bits of development. And every single account uses apps. Every single account has additional revenue that they're paying for those applications where they're paying at least 30, top side of sometimes $300 to $500 a month in additional applications for their account. Now, this capability is all available today for GHL, and ultimately, agencies need to start looking at this opportunity to generate the revenue from it.
I love that. So on that topic, like what are these apps? Where can you find them on GHL? What is the app marketplace? The types of different things. And feel free to share your screen if you want to, Rupert, up to you. But help us understand like the white label capabilities, links for developers and all of that. And then we can maybe talk about what not to do as well.
Okay, so let's go over that. So there are two types of apps, first off, okay, and they are agency apps and sub-account apps. Now, where can you find them? Well, all of the apps are going to be found in the app marketplace on your agency level. So what you're looking at right now is myself on the app marketplace, but I'm on the agency level. Now you can see these apps. These apps are exclusively available to agencies, and they're here to aid you as an agency. There are 4 apps, funny enough, that we've done recently for the agency level just here: top nav buttons, knowledge base, the custom menu links, and agency actions. Now, all of these apps are here to aid you as an agency. Real quick example, agency actions. That one on the sub-account level will give you in the workflow builder the capabilities of creating a location or creating a user, but this app is only available for the agencies on the $500 plan or the Pro plan. I'm not sure what the naming is of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pro plan. Yeah.
And then you've got the knowledge base. This is going to generate a capability for you to generate a knowledge base across all of your locations for you, and you're going to be able to create those articles and those categorizations. Top nav buttons, you're going to be able to generate buttons that go across the top of all of your sub accounts and to be able to change their colors, change their links, change whatever you'd like about them. And custom menu dynamic, this is a mouthful, this one. Agency dynamic custom menu links, that's going to give you as an agency the capability to make a custom menu link, but based on what the location does, you're going to be able to change it, the link to go to one URL or to another. So you can basically have this link that's going to change based on actions that maybe your user, your client, or the location does, and just update it in the workflow builder. So these apps are all here to help you as an agency. You can then move on into here, what's called manage your sub-account apps. Now here in the sub-account apps, these are all apps that your clients can basically see. Now you can very simply disapprove and approve who can see these applications by selecting them and then simply disapproving them, which by all means, go ahead. You could remove all of them and disapprove all of them if you wish to, but I highly suggest you don't do that, okay? But, this is the kind of option you could do. One of the things I kind of say don't do, because you mentioned it just a minute ago, and that's just here on this little gear cog. Here on this gear cog, you have these 2 options here to allow sub-accounts to view and install third-party apps and also to hide the App Store. Now, I would suggest that you have the same setup here, one with the check mark and one without, okay? The top one having the check mark. And the only reason for this is if you've already got your sub-accounts and they've already got an application that they've downloaded their sub-account, if you go ahead and have either of those done the other way around, unfortunately what's going to happen is all of those apps are going to get removed and your client's going to now not be able to get back to those things. So it's a bit of a hard choice on don't actually delete everything, more of if you would really like to remove everything, just disapprove it from here ultimately. But once you go ahead and you approve what apps do I want to go and show on my sub account, you're then going to be able to click here and go to the reselling capabilities. Now this is the core products, like what I was talking about earlier with the Yext. But up here you can move into the marketplace apps, and for an example you could go ahead and let's go right into the middle. and we can go for this entertainment tool, and we can say this is currently $6 and we're going to sell this to our clients for 20. And you can go ahead and save that, and then you can do the same if there's multiple different plans. So you can go ahead and sell the annual plan for 120 if you wish to.
So
Okay.
let's pause for one quick second. For those of you that are
Yes.
watching and you've never seen high level before, this might be a little confusing. So we have two different layers of account access. One is the agency layer, which is we consider the parent account, right? Then we have the
Yes.
sub account layer, or considered to be the client or the locations, and they have access that you as the parent provide to them. So all the child level accounts could be customizable. What Rupert's showing you here is third-party integrations and apps that you can build or buy from any high leveler, including Rupert himself, that can add additional revenue line to your core offers. Now, there are core apps and extensions High Level has. In addition to that, you can bring in your own app. We have a fully, very friendly API that allows you to bring in all kinds of stuff. Certain industries have certain needs, like healthcare has healthcare oriented ERM systems and all of that, where attorneys may have something else, or an automotive dealership may have different things. So just be mindful
Yeah.
that everything we're sharing you is all customizable and it's two different layers. We're speaking to the provider today at most to help you understand what's possible on revenue opportunities. Okay, so thanks for letting me pause. So let's continue. What are we looking at here when it comes to marketplace apps?
So marketplace apps, like if we're looking on the location level, like I was showing you before, you can go ahead and put your resale price into that. That now means that your clients are going to be able to purchase those applications here on the App Store, and it's just going to generate you more revenue at the end of the day. It's a very simple way of ultimately looking at it. The best way of kind of like going about it for the people who've been on GHL for quite a while is going to be that you're going to be able to incorporate these applications alongside with your snapshots, which is a really interesting kind of conversation I think we should get to
Yeah,
a little bit
I was
later.
gonna say, how are they gonna build this all into a full-blown system? Help us understand.
So when it comes to installing a snapshot, now like everyone knows with a snapshot, it's going to add all the websites, all the automations, all the funnels, all that fun stuff, right? Now inside of your automations, you can have your apps as part of the actions and as part of the triggers, like turning your workflow builder into like a Zapier experience. Now, imagine you want to put that exact same experience over into another account. Well, the thing is, you can go ahead and put the app as part of the snapshot, and when you put it into the other GHL location, that app will still be as part of the snapshot. But unfortunately, the client is going to have to buy the application to actually make the workflow work. So if you're going ahead and building these snapshots where you could combine 2 or 3 different applications to get loads of additional features for your client at a very small rate, you're going to be able to sell this snapshot now on an actual monthly recurring revenue basis, because there's an actual recurring revenue cost to it, to the developer of the applications. This is going to really solidify a lot of offers for agencies when it comes to, if you're going ahead and installing snapshots, you're going to be able to generate that real strong monthly recurring revenue, which is where you kind of like put everything together. You're not just getting an application for like a small additional revenue of maybe 20 to 30, possibly $100, depending on what we're talking about. But when you combine it with those snapshots, it just becomes really powerful.
Yeah, can you speak a little bit to why adding additional opportunities like apps is important? And I'm thinking about churn, I'm thinking about stickiness of a client. Can you speak a little bit of the benefits of having additional features?
So let's imagine you're going to go and meet up with a new client, and let's say they talk to you about, hey, we already use this other system and we'd like to make sure we continue using this other system until we maybe swap over, or maybe it's something that maybe GHL doesn't exactly do and you've got to go ahead and try and combine the two together. Having an app store, having developers, or having people like myself basically available to create these integrations is going to give you the capability of basically closing on those clients quicker. So if the integration already exists, you already know it is, you can find it in the App Store, bang, makes it nice and easy. If you meet up with the client beforehand and you know it's going to be a requirement, you're going to be able to investigate that and get an actual true integrated experience. So you're actually just selling one thing, not this, that, and like loads of other things. You know, it kind of like moves away from the GHL core offer of what GHL is. And the way it kind of like stop churn is like I have this kind of silly expression of GHL is kind of like an all-in-one. Yeah, you'd agree. But when you kind of start bringing in this app capability, you're turning yourself into kind of like an everything in one, which is where anything and everything else can also exist in this all in one. And having that kind of capability when you've got a client and they're already having successful capabilities with these additional applications, extending everything on GHL, they're just not going to want to leave you because everything's there, you know, which kind of comes back to that stupid expression of mine of all in one versus everything in one kind of situation.
Yeah, so can you elaborate on what not to do then? I assume that was what you just discussed is one of those things, right? But what are some things that we shouldn't do when it comes to launching apps? And we'll kind of close the first pillar of discussion with that and go into the second discussion.
Well, just my advice, right? Do not turn the App Store off in your GHL account. And it's not for any other reason than, yeah, obviously we have a lot of apps on there. But if you do have clients that are already using them, and we've had agencies who've already had this issue of that, like a client just went ahead and bought an app, and the way that things are currently set up, you as an agency aren't going to get notified about that kind of situation. And you're now, if you turn off the app store, you're just going to basically remove everything. So that's the only thing I ultimately don't suggest. If you really don't want or you don't have faith ultimately yet in the app store, I would love to show you and educate as much about that as possible. You can come and find loads of videos from me about all of that stuff. But ultimately, just go ahead and disapprove all of them. It might take a little extra time, maybe 5 extra minutes, but that's my biggest, like, don't do that suggestion.
I love that. So the second pillar that we really wanted to talk to when it comes to building a revenue line with apps in general with high level marketplace or level up marketplace is getting results for agencies and their clients. Like what are the benefits, results, what's the real importance there?
So what's the benefits for your clients?
Ultimately. Yeah.
Ultimately, sorry, you kind of asked me more than one question there. I was kind of like, hang on, which one am I answering
Sorry.
now?
Yeah. What I was
Um,
thinking about was like why should the agencies actually launch apps for their clients, right? I mean, it's stickiness, churn, what else is there? That's the most
well, it's
important
just
thing.
there's the. I mean, one of the main things that agencies. I mean, some of the agencies I might speak to, the revenue. I mean, ultimately, it's just an entire capability of building additional revenue. The agency apps are just going to give you time-saving capabilities, customization capabilities, a lot of those kind of situations. But ultimately, like GHL, as like what I've watched it from for like the last 4 years, um, in my opinion, is making a massive dynamic pivot change, which I don't know if everybody, I feel like a lot of agencies maybe might not be appreciating of like how much change this is ultimately going to be. But GHL is going to really just turn into anything that people might want it to be with applications. And there's just so much capability now for you to really create a unique SaaS experience as an agency. And it's only been a bit like here's an interesting fact. I think it's only been about 100 days since the App Store's really been open. Okay, and there's about 100 apps on the App Store, which is kind of like saying there's about an app nearly every day is coming out of the App Store, and honestly, I can't wait until like October next year at the next GHL event because like I have a target. Like I'm honestly going to do over 100 apps this year. Okay, and like I'm just interested to see where we are by October. Like like what kind of extra changes have happened to the App Store? Who else has started to build apps? What kind of capabilities are going to be available for agencies? It's just massive, massive, massive change, especially when you combine it all with the snapshots. But that's a yeah a different
Yeah,
conversation.
I totally agree with you. When people ask me why is GHL exciting for developers and a lot of the engineer-minded people, my thoughts is like, well, it's the first ever operating system ever built in the world of marketing, in my opinion, where you can build your own CRMs and feature stack however you want. That's relevant to the client while white labeling and building your subscription model and keeping 100% of their revenue, which sounds
Mm.
crazy, but that is literally where we're going.
There is no other marketplace that I know out of all of the other tech that I've dealt with that like GHL. There is no other marketplace quite like it where, as a developer, I can put my app available to agencies. Agencies are able to resell. They're going to be able to generate their revenue. The client's going to be happy about it. Agencies happy about it because they haven't got to worry about supporting the applications because that's handed off on the white label capabilities of the apps like developers like us, and we handle the support for it. There's literally no marketplace like it.
Absolutely. Would you like to share some use case scenarios at the agency or sub account level that we can maybe walk through as we just kind of finish out the second pillar, which is using apps to get results for your agency or your clients? I don't know if you have any industry specific things that you would like to share, but up to you.
Um, just thinking, would you like a sub account app or an agency
I
app?
think at the end user level might be useful, maybe at the sub account level.
Sub account app. So let me just get something up on my screen. So let me just see which apps I have inside of this location because I'm not joking when I tell you that yeah, it's a little bit all over the place sometimes the amount of apps we have going on. So my account is always looking a little different. So yeah, let's talk about this one. So ClickUp, it's been a really big loved app from everybody on the marketplace. Can you see my screen?
I can see your yes, thank you.
Yes. So here you can see, just as an example, just what it kind of looks like, for example. Here we're inside the workflow builder, and this is just one of the kind of capabilities of what you can do with apps. There's so much I can honestly go about, but I don't want to go too in
Yeah.
detail about it. But once you come down here on the workflow builder, as you can now see there's all these gold actions or yellowy gold, right? And each one of these, this is like an integrated app. So it's almost like, if I come down here now, you can see the ClickUp app. If I wanted to, I'm going to be able to get tasks, create lists, create folders, do all of these kind of capabilities. And I don't have to go ahead and start going into Zapier or Make or doing any kind of crazy things with webhooks, and then you might have to do all this passing data, and it feels kind of like code, but it's not like code, and you start going into that kind of stuff. Like you can just keep everything inside of here, and it is just as simple as ultimately filling in a form with either just writing in the text, or ultimately coming here, clicking onto your custom fields and your custom value capabilities, adding in those, and ultimately going from there. I mean, it's the most simplest thing of ultimately just thinking to yourself, like, how many of my clients ultimately also have like some sort of Zapier flow that needs to go to their account, and I could ultimately sell them an app where they're just going to do it in the workflow builder, and now I've got that additional revenue. And like, you start thinking of opportunities of like, hey, this client is also going to be able to need this app, or maybe I could possibly sell this app, and you start thinking to yourself, oh, maybe I should write an email and send all that out to all my users saying, hey, this app here is a really good app, you should buy this. And you can sell them for whatever price you want to. You can make as much money out of them as you like, as long as you pay the developers. Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk about the third pillar that we wanted to discuss, which is how to increase revenue with apps. Like, how do I sell it?
Right. The first thing, this most important thing, okay, so make sure you write this one down: have as many apps available as possible. Okay, right? Ultimately, you want to go through the apps that, like, you got to think about if you're selling to a particular niche of client or something like that, you want to go and have a look at some of the apps, and actually, as an agency, say to yourself, yeah, I want to experience some of these things potentially as what my client would like to do, and go and potentially try some of them, see what kind of scenario your client's going to go through before potentially going ahead and pushing it out there. But ultimately, try and get as many apps available as possible. You never know what you're going to sell to your clients, and I am honestly surprised by the amount of apps that we have available, which ones some people are actually buying. And it's interesting to hear some of the use cases, so you can be really surprised by your clients, but ultimately have the apps all available. When it comes to kind of like choosing some of these apps that you're going to do, it'd be a really good idea to ultimately just copy paste some of the description information about these apps. You can go ahead and just send out an email ultimately about them. But if you really want to generate a lot of extra profit and revenue out of them, my suggestion is make a snapshot where the snapshot has 3 or 4 apps potentially all involved with it, and to actually make that sub account, that location, that child account. We have so many different names for sub accounts. It's amazing. Locations. Okay, that is not going to work. It's not going to work unless they're paying for those additional applications to actually make it turn into something. So yeah, ultimately have as many apps available. Get some emails out to your users and let them know about the App Store ultimately, and make some snapshots out of them. You'd be really surprised with some of the capabilities of what you can do. I mean, even I'm surprised with some of the ideas that one or two of the agencies have came to me with. Like there's this really useful flow with where you want to take a payment for a calendar, but you don't charge them anything. But then you use the Stripe app, and you're going to be able to capture that information from Stripe. So then, if they don't turn up to the appointment, there's just an automatic charge that went through for them for not turning up to the appointment, and it was all just done in the workflows with the Stripe app that we have. But yeah, I would have never ever thought of that whatsoever. And this ingenious guy from New York just popped into it one day.
I love that. So I think that leads to my next question around building the revenue line. So like I'm not a developer at all. I'm not a techie at all. I'm more of like a visionary of a business or like a business strategist. Like I've always partnered up with people that are engineers and thought a certain way, and they're builders, right? That was the perfect partner for me. And my thought process is like, when do I make a decision about an app? Do I go get the clients first and figure out how they do things and then go build something? Or should I go build something and then find the market that makes sense for it? Like, what are your thoughts on the timelines of this?
Um, I mean, I'm not here to particularly talk about building applications as a whole. That's a whole different mountain. Never mind like a different book or
Yeah,
something. Like, if
yeah,
you're deciding to go ahead and build an app, my suggestion is go to marketplace.go highlevel.com. Sign up for your account there. You can find the Slack community as well, and you're going to find a nice, healthy bunch of people basically talking all sorts of techie things, as you put it. And that would be the best way. And you can reach out to me if you'd like to. I have plenty of other people. There's developer partners when you go to the marketplace, which in the world there's four of them. I'm one of them. You
yeah.
can go and talk to some other people as well. There's not just me. And yeah, but when it comes to as an agency, like, am I making a decision about an app? I mean, you have different ways of going about it. If you're really strong on SaaS, if that's what you're pushing out on, my suggestion: open up the marketplace. Not much is going to go wrong. Ultimately, you've just got to put in potentially a bit of time on the prices of the reselling. And again, if you're on the SaaS side of things, look at the snapshot integrations as part of it. But if you're on that more agency kind of like like dealing with your client all day long, then again, I would look at the snapshot route with applications
Yeah.
ultimately. But knowing you've got it, you can always just kind of like jump into a developer and say, hey, can you build this integration alongside of it? And it's going to be a painless experience now. Like maybe in the last 4 years, it's been a bit more painful, maybe for agencies, and they kind of like don't want to adventure into it. But it's now pain free. I'm happy to report.
Well, here's what I know about you. You are the largest app supplier of high level, from what I understand. I think over 50% of all the apps was built by your team. So like your word matters a lot in how development should start for an agency, and your opinion, I think, is very valid in how you've seen different types of agencies. Like, so help us understand the type of clients you work with. What stages are they in? Are these all like very advanced agencies or brand new agencies? Like, what are the types of high levelers you work with in
I
general?
mean, I've had agencies that are doing 8 figures annually. I've had agencies that are doing 7 figures annually, and I've had clients that are doing 6 figures annually. And you know, everybody kind of works a little bit differently depending on what's kind of going on and how they might want to launch things. They have larger teams and like scalability and all those kind of stuff. I mean, currently working with about 4 agencies, and they've got about 700 sub accounts amongst the four of them. Got some other smaller agencies as well, kind of in the back burner of stuff. But when it comes to like agencies that we help, I mean, the agencies we help, we ultimately just doing a lot of deployment for them, like ultimately getting websites done for them, and we introduce our applications in what we do for those agencies. Um, but ultimately, working with the agencies just gives me insight onto how we're going to better create our applications for the agencies, because these applications, kind of like the applications that we build, they get sold obviously 2 times. You might say like once from the developer to the agency, and another one from the agency to the client. And it does mean that when we create these applications, we do need to think of both users in the actual situation. So having that capability of working with some of these amazing agencies. Just kind of gives me a bit of insight onto like how big SaaS players like to play, and then maybe how the smaller agencies want to play on a local level potentially.
Love it. So as we kind of close out, can you help us understand, or maybe even do a walkthrough of Level Up Marketplace? Help us understand the whole entire spectrum there.
You want me to give you a walk through Level Up Marketplace?
If that's okay. I mean,
Level
it's
up.
up to
Listen,
you.
listen. No. I can. It's really easy. You go to your GHL account. You go to the app marketplace, and all of our apps are there. That's what Level Up Marketplace is. Ultimately, you can go to our website and you can check out all the apps on there as well on .com. And there's information on there, videos, how-tos, things like that. But ultimately, I think maybe just so you're aware, Paulson, like when we first met at the Conversations 2023, we were selling the Level Up marketplaces as one software. But as the App Store has actually developed over since October, we've made a massive pivot where you can only find our apps on the App Store, basically. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
visiting levelupmarketplace.com, you can come over there, ask for a custom app, ask us for new integrations, come and watch some of the how-to videos, or kind of get in touch with me if you wish to. But ultimately, if you're looking for all of the apps and everything that we actually sell at Level Up Marketplace, it's all sold on GHL inside the marketplace.
I love it. And I know you had mentioned you plan on like replacing Zapier and adding a ton of those features and workflow. So what's next? Like what does development for you guys look like in maybe the next quarter or so?
Well, we're going to focus on the next 2 months on agency applications. So this is things that are going to extend the capabilities of the agency. We want to do that because I think that's going to be a really great way to maybe introduce some of the applications to agencies before maybe they get into the sub account, because we focused most of our time on the sub account level of kind of like bringing, nearly just under 50 different integrations that you would find in Zapier. So basically, that's kind of like how I'm talking about replacing Zapier essentially, is that, like how you would go ahead, connect those little nodes inside of Zapier. You can essentially find the same stuff now inside of GHL. It's just on the App Store. But coming outside of that, I think we're going to work at looking at how we're going to best support and do a lot of documentation around more application capabilities at the end of that. And then ultimately, we're just going to push as hard as we can on developing as more agency and sub-account apps, long story short. But for the next quarter, yeah, we want to pull out a lot of agency apps. I think that's going to really help the community of agencies with kind of understanding like, wow, if I can have this as an agency and I can give this kind of extra capability to my client, they're going to be so much happier and stick with you. And I think it's just going to be a good experience to get those out for them.
Love it. So Rupert, final thoughts on doubling a revenue line or creating a new revenue line with high level app marketplace in general. Like for those, please address the folks that are absolutely brand new and no idea about any development, and also maybe address the advanced folks that are cranking.
Doubling your revenue is going to come down to maximizing the capability of knowing that your client, sorry, knowing that you have the capability of adding any additional development to their account. And you as an agency are going to know that you can come to people like myself to be able to get those kind of capabilities. You can charge a premium for that from the resale capabilities of doing that. You can sell capabilities of just having the resale capabilities from the App Store itself, and just focus on the snapshots. Like I think snapshots is like how snapshots have been, Paulson, for like the last 4 years for GHL. They're going to like this 2024 year 2024 is the last year I think they're going to be like that, and then straight afterwards it's going to turn into a completely different game of nearly every snapshot coming with applications, just to beef out these snapshots basically. turn them into something a little bit more extra you can sell for.
I love it. Well, we appreciate you jumping in for a quick podcast session here, Rupert. Where can people find you? What's your link? I know people want to check out all the apps you've kind of developed and deployed. What's the link to Level Up Marketplace and some of the things that you have going on again?
Levelupmarketplace.com and walletcampaigns.com. And if you want to, you can also just find me at rupertsamuel.com. But yeah, all
Absolutely.
the
And
little
are you
ones.
going to come to this upcoming year's conference? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Already booked the spot for the same spot as last year and everything. I'll be there again for next year. I can't wait for it. I mean, ultimately, at the start of this conversation, everything I was saying, like, we're planned for nearly 9 months in the future, especially for the event, because our timeline is kind of like looking at the when is the GHL event coming up. So we're looking forward to the event because ultimately I want to be there, kind of like saying we have more apps than anybody the bloody else. Come get your apps. You know.
I love it. Well, we appreciate your time, Rupert. Excited to kind of, see what you guys are about to build out and more. And on top of it, I know you're, I think, the largest app supplier of high level today. And I hope, we raise the bar even more on 2024 and get into, hundreds and hundreds of different use case scenarios. One thing I know is there's new different types of avatars coming into high level every single day. Consultants, course creators, YouTubers, influencers. Even there's a whole array of people, and I think we're pivoting from the whole agency, quote unquote world into all marketers and all online brands, and that's kind of I think where high level is going on top of internet, internationalization. So this is an
Yep,
exciting
and
timeline. Any final thoughts?
no, I completely agree with you. I mean, ultimately, the capabilities of what the app marketplace gives you for developers is just going to give GHL that really, really dynamic edge. Like it's just going to drastically change, and that's why I feel like snapshots are going to change how they're going to the actual capabilities of what you're selling, who's selling, how you're selling. It's all going to be able to expand further than what it currently is, and I'm pumped to see what happens ultimately over the next 4 years with high level. That'll be yeah. We'll see wherever that is.
Yeah, I love it. What a journey so far in the last 4 to 5 years, and I'm so excited for the next 5 years as well. So in case if you're watching this and don't have a high level account just yet, feel free to jump into a 30-day trial. There's a link below somewhere in this YouTube channel. Take advantage of it. Do a quick trial. You get to meet great people like Rupert and plenty of other experts that are doing very cool things. But I appreciate your time, Rupert. Looking forward to see you in person at the conference.
Yeah, it's been lovely being here. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.